Hello, so today we're going to start a carp kite based on some Asian art. So we have a couple learning objectives. One is to create artwork and inspired by Asian art. And the Asian country we're going to focus on today is Japan. And we're going to create a Japanese carp kite to celebrate Children's Day. So the way that we start is you're going to start with a colored piece of construction paper and you want to fold it in half. You want to take that folded paper, put the fold at the bottom, and then take your carp kite pattern, put the straight part of the pattern on the fold, the creased part. So here's my crease, here's the fold, line that up. It's a tight fit, but you can do it. I know you can. You're going to trace around the back, the top, and the front of your pattern so that you have something that looks like this. You're not going to cut down here, so you don't even need to draw that straight line for your pattern. Lines up with the bottom. You're not going to cut down there. You're going to start on the back and cut around. Okay, so when you cut it out, it should look like the pattern. It should look very similar. So you don't want to cut the spikes off. You don't want to cut a straight line for the mouth. And now our second learning objective is going to come into play. We're going to paint straight lines, curved lines, thick and thin lines. But you're also going to be able to paint some of the other lines that you like to use. So we're going to use temper cakes because those show up nicely on construction paper. And we're going to use a thin paintbrush so we can paint nice thin lines. So you're going to get your paintbrush wet, pick a color, and you're going to swirl around quite a bit to get lots of paint on your paintbrush. And remember that the lines you have to paint are straight, curved, thick, and thin. So I'm going to start with a straight line. Rinse my paintbrush off, pick a different color, and I'm going to paint a curved line. And you can paint these lines in any order you want, but what's most important is that you make sure you have the 4 lines that you have to have: straight, curved, thick, and thin. So by using this thin paintbrush, our lines are going to be thin automatically. So that part is covered. So I've painted a straight line and I've painted a curved line. They're both thin, so now I need a thick line. So I think I'm going to do a zigzag. And this is not a thick line, but remember you can paint all sorts of different kinds of lines, but you have to have those 4. So I'm going to try to remember my thick line later on my fish. I'm going to paint a wavy line. Remember that wavy and zigzag look very different, so they should not look very similar. I think now I'll paint my thick line. So to paint a thick line, I'm going to go across once with my thin paintbrush, then I'm going to go across again right next to the first line, and that makes it a little bit thicker, but I want to be pretty clear that this is a thick line, so I'm going to get it a little bit, make it just a little bit thicker. And I want you to paint the color heavy and dark. I don't want a lot of water to where it looks more like watercolor. Okay, now I'm going to paint a bumpy line. And I think the last line I'm going to paint is going to be a castle line. And notice that I use a variety of different colors. I don't want you to just use one color for your whole fish. Alright, and one important thing that we need to remember to do is we need to remember to write our name on the outside of our fish. So after we've painted our stripes, or maybe even before we paint our stripes, you want to write your name. So down here at the bottom, you're going to write your name nice and neat, and the day you have art. Day A, day B, day C. So you got to fit that all on the bottom so that everybody can see it. And then after it's dry, you're going to make some eyes for your fish. So what I want you to do, you're going to get a black and a white paper. I want you to take your white paper, fold it in half, and I want you to draw an oval or a circle, but I want it to be nice and big and fill up most of the paper. So don't draw a tiny little oval or circle. You're going to leave your paper folded and cut both out at the same time. So here's the start of my eyes. So now I'm going to take my black paper, fold it in half, and I'm going to draw some black circles to go in there. Now I don't want to draw tiny little black circles. They need to be a good size to fill up the oval. So I'm going to draw that, keep it folded, and cut that out. And then I'm just going to put a dot of glue on each and glue my black dots down. And then those are going to get glued to the top of my fish. So this is going to be the front of my fish, this is the bottom of my fish. So the skinny part is the back, the tail part, and the wide part is the head. So I'm going to turn it around and put it at the bottom, and I'm going to glue my eyes with the black dots facing the mouth. A frame of glue. Then I'm going to flip my fish over, and on the back tail part I'm going to put a line of glue, and this is where I'm going to put my streamers. And I want you to make sure that your streamers don't hang off the sides of your fish, that you fit them nice and neat inside. So I'm not going to glue the streamer on like this to where it sticks off the side. I'm going to make sure it fits completely inside, and even leave a little bit of yellow paper poking out so that I know my streamers aren't going to hang out. And tissue paper is real thin, so sometimes you grab two by accident. So I want you to make sure that you separate them. And you're only going to need about 5 pieces of tissue paper, 4 maybe. And make sure they stay right inside. This is the most important part to your fish. I'm turning my fish sideways because I want you to know that where the streamers are, that's the bottom of my fish, that's the tail. This is the side of my fish, and then this front part where I glued the eyes on, that's the mouth. Do not put glue on the mouth. So you're going to put glue on the side of your fish and across half of the streamers. You don't need to go all the way down because you're going to fold this up. Do not put glue where the eyes are. So I'm going to fold this up to show you. I did not put glue right here. There's no glue here. That's very, very important. And then you're going to fold this in half. And this needs some time to dry. So here is my new one. The reason the glue has to be dry is because we are going to stuff it with newspaper to make it 3D and give him a little bit of a belly. So I'm going to take this newspaper and tear it into smaller pieces because you don't want really big pieces. And you're going to take a small piece, wad it up into a ball, and then once the glue is dry, your fish will stay closed. If the glue is wet, it's going to start popping open. So you're going to open up your fish's mouth and you're going to put this newspaper in it. Wad up another piece of small newspaper and shove that in, and another piece, until you get it down here near the tail, and your fish starts to become more like 3D. Okay, and then the last thing we're going to do is poke a hole on both sides and tie a piece of yarn through it to hang our carp kite. The yarn through one side, across to the other side. If you need help with this, I can help. And then you bring the two ends together, tie a knot at the bottom. And now you have your 3D carp kite showing thin and thick lines, straight and curved lines, and you've represented Asian art because it's a Japanese carp kite.